Hey folks, Sean here, and in this episode, I want to talk to you about why it is so important to design a proper business model for your B2B SaaS from the beginning. And in this episode, I'm going to talk more about the concept of like the freemium model and why a free trial, in my opinion, is so superior. The freemium model to me is fraught with all kinds of peril, because especially if you want to do and you want to build B2B SaaS product businesses similar to the way that I do in bootstrapped fashion, and you want them to ultimately produce strong, profitable results. Now, the freemium model, like a lot of people have tried, and the attraction there is that with the freemium model, you're going to get a wave after wave of users and a ton of users. And then after you have a ton of users, you're going to be able to monetize them. But to me, that sounds a lot like the joke where it's like step one is collect something. Step two is a big question mark, and step three is profit. There's a huge missing piece in the middle there. And that missing piece is often what people experience when they try to leverage the strategy and it doesn't go well. There's a great podcast episode where I interviewed founder Brian Casel, who is building a product that is a communication tool for basically coaches, like business coaches. And in that episode, he talks about him attempting the freemium model and why he ultimately abandoned it in favor of things like obviously requiring payment for the product and free trials because they were superior for various reasons. But they help you avoid this trap, which is you might be stuck in a situation where you're giving a ton of everything away for free and people are not converting. And that's what I don't want to happen to you. So if you've been thinking about a freemium model or you currently have a freemium model and you're not hitting your goals, people aren't converting at the rate that you want them to, you're not bringing in enough revenue, you're not growing, you're not profitable, which is beyond my opinion the most important metric that you should be tracking, then I'm going to recommend you make a switch, change that. And you probably don't use it again, because here's what they don't tell you about the freemium model. In order to make that work, you need like an unlimited amount of time and potentially an unlimited amount of money. That's really a attempt to kind of monopolize or cannibalize your market, because what you're trying to do is you're potentially trying to give away something that everyone else is charging for in the hope that you're the last person standing when the dust settles. And that's the lost leader approach. We've seen companies like WeWork try stuff like that and a bunch of software companies. But ultimately, it winds up being unsustainable if you can't continue to raise additional funding to weather that storm, because you don't know how long that's going to take. That's the big risk. You don't know how long it's going to take for you to be either the only game in town or the top game in town where you're continually making your product better despite not bringing any revenue. Anyway, long story short, for a whole bunch of reasons, I don't recommend it. So if you're not planning to go that route, then it's a trap. If you're not planning to go that route, as in you're not planning to raise or like at least have one person dedicated to fundraising full time, and you're more interested in doing this the way I do it, which is bootstrapping, maintaining control, building the kind of lifestyle around your business that you're looking for, then you're going to want to avoid that strategy. Instead, free trials are great because they limit your exposure. They don't just limit your exposure, you can roll those costs into your customer acquisition costs to make sure that you're still coming out ahead, right? Because if you're giving away too much, you'll know because it's limited, right? If it's unlimited, you're never really going to know how much you're giving away. The other problem that solves for is testing your product. Like, how are you going to know where to draw the line in terms of what you're giving away and what you're not? So that's where designing free trials is a lot easier, because it's a fixed period of time or it's a limited amount of capacity that you're providing to your target market, and you're going to be able to measure relatively quickly, way faster than the freemium model, in terms of how effectively people are converting, so that you can iterate on that more quickly. You can figure that out a lot faster. The last piece that I'll mention, which is tricky with freemium, and I've got a bunch of products here that I'm consuming myself, is that a lot of people aren't going to need more than the free tier. So for a product I'm using right now is freemium, and I'm taking advantage of it, but I have no intention of paying for it. So that is only costing them and not providing them with really any advantages for the most part. So long story short here, I don't love freemium model, especially if you want to build the kind of business you want around the lifestyle you're looking for. and you are interested in bootstrapping to maintain control and do what you want to do with your business, give yourself the time that you need in order to be successful, highly recommend going the free trial route and getting people to paying for your product as soon as possible.